G'day guys, it's Ralph here. What's cracking today? We are comparing the Peak Design travel tripod with the Ulanzi and Coman 0Y travel tripod to see which is best. And as you can see, they're both carbon fiber tripods that stand about, well, this tall. Now, one of the questions obviously is, why is this tripod so much more than this tripod? And some conclusions have been brought forth. One, for example, is this one has a lifetime warranty. This one only has a year warranty. So that's pretty significant. And I think if Ulanzi wanted to completely destroy Peak Design, all they'd actually need to do is put a 5 or 10 year warranty on this. Now, the big challenge is the center of the apex on the Ulanzi Coman is made out of plastic. And what that means is there's a potential for when you're pushing it down like this for it to move. See, it's not moving at all. It's because the tensile strength of the legs, like I'm applying a fair bit of force. I'm going to do exactly the same with the Peak Design. I applied some, that's a lot of movement there, guys. Wow. And actually, you know where the other movement is? The movement is between the legs. I can actually close the legs. Whereas on Ulanzi Coman, I'm trying, but I can't move it. This has been used more, but they are stuck, I tell you. And as you can see, there is a height difference. Ulanzi Coman coming in first. Just with a great deal of force, I can just put that down. And if I do, there's a little bit of movement in the center column as it's held in the apex bracket. As tight as I can. Same is true when I apply force to the center column of the Peak Design. And if I put that all the way up, let's just tighten that all the way in. And let's see if there's much movement. There's very little movement of the center column in the apex, but there's a lot of movement on the legs. The legs have a lot of bend in them. Feet on the Ulanzi Coman can be interchanged with metal spikes. All you do is simply screw it off, screw it back on. Here are the metal spikes, and the challenge is that there's nowhere to store them. So what would be really good is if I had a little pocket, internal pocket here, like the Peak Design has, internal pocket you just slip it into, because it is a travel tripod, and the idea is to go more light wherever you can. So before you go riding the Peak Design off, this can hold 10 kilos. That's right, 10 kilos of weight just here, whereas this can only hold 3 kilos. So what I thought I'd do is I'd get my Beast unit out here, and we'll see. We'll just see what they're actually like. Here's the Beast unit. It's my Tamron 150 to 600. It's got an FTZ2 adapter on a Nikon Z9, and this puppy means business. It's such a wicked weapon. Now, if you're enjoying this content so far, please subscribe and like. It costs you nothing, and you can always unsubscribe if you think it's a bad choice. It's not the end of the world life choice, is it? All right, so let's put this on here, and I start with the first challenge that even though there's an Arca Swiss mount on the bottom of my lens, it doesn't attach to here. This only has Peak Design Arca Swiss. It can only accommodate that. Whereas Ulanzi, for example, I can just whack that in, easy as you like. So you got a bit of appreciation for what this unit is like. It's gigantic. And look at that. That is stable as. Now, here's what you're thinking. What happens when you put it on an angle? Because that's what we really want to know. Now, because this lens actually has a bracket here, you can go portrait or landscape just by moving the lens in the bracket. But for the sake of our experiment, this unit would weigh about 3.5 kilos. And if I put it on an angle and I lock it down, it holds. It holds, folks. Have a squiz. All right, let's be a bit wild. There's no way this is going to work. Now, I know the Peak Design can do this if you have a Peak Design base plate, which I don't have for that. Actually, I just use my L bracket because that locks into it. But look at this. Whew. That's impressive, right? So in all fairness, Ulanzi sent me this tripod, and I purchased this one by myself, not for the sake of this video. I've been using this tripod for a while, and I don't actually like it very much. I first saw it on a Peter McKinnon video back when I was first starting out, before it got released, and I thought, this is incredible, and I bought it as a result of watching that, and have since learnt that watching some of those big YouTubers do reviews sucks, because you just end up getting ripped off buying a product that they say you should buy rather than one that's actually been field tested well. Anyway, I digress. So I wanted to actually balance this review by leaning toward Peak Design and saying, look, this is a great tripod, and what do you think about this? But So far, guys, I'm struggling to talk up the Peak design. It is a few years old. It does have a different design for the legs, which I'm not sure if that makes a massive difference or not. It certainly creates more bend or wibble wobble because they're actually flatter, and therefore when things are flatter rather than circular, you get more give and take in them. The challenge with that is when it's windy, this thing's going to move around, which this thing doesn't. It's pretty solid. But if it is windy, you've got this hook underneath. Both of them have this handy little hook underneath, but the hook on both of them, well, it hides something quite special. Let's talk about the Peak design. It has this cool little thing where you pull it half out and then pull it all the way out, and it has a magnet. See that? It's a magnet. And underneath is a phone mount. This phone mount is really, really handy when you're in a pinch. It sucks if you're trying to do all your phone photography through it. How do I know? Because I've used it. And providing you get the balance exactly right, because that's all it is, right? It's all it grips onto, and it sits in here nice. So it's really clever and cluey, but it's not actually good when you've got an iPhone 13 Pro Max and you're trying to hold it by not touching any of the buttons and make sure the phone doesn't fall out of the actual phone holder. Now, Ulanzi have taken a different track. They've actually, if we can unscrew this, it's a tool. It's a hex tool that actually pulls out, and you can plug in the other way, and you can use it to do one of two things. First of all, you can use it to change and tighten the screws around the tripod, and secondly, if you turn it around, you can actually pop it in the top, and all you do is slide this down, pop it in, and undo it. If you want to know how, I've got another review out, so here's that other review, which I'd encourage you to watch, as well as watching this one, because that'll give you all the insides out of how this works. Now, both of these little fellas can do underslung mode, which is super handy when you're doing travel to photography and you want a whole heap of options from one unit. All you do is pull the center column out, turn it around, put it back in. You'll need to remove, of course, the hooks from both of these. I'm actually crouching down. These aren't like 6'3" tall. I'm not 6'3" tall. Well, what I like about Ulanzi and Coman is this little cool thing. So you flick that open and it gives you full control of this, and you just push it down to lock it off. You can push it down a fair way, actually, depending on how tight you want it locked off. Peak design has this screw that you can pull out like this and use to loosen that, and then you use to tighten up once it's there all the way. You push it in. Not a massive fan of that. It's too finicky. But the big call why everyone is sort of leaning toward this and upset with this is when you go vertical. Look at this. When you go vertical, you can only turn your camera like that. Whereas with the Ulanzi and Coman, it's that easy to go vertical, and you can do anything you like when you're in a vertical position. And so actually you can easily put your camera in any direction you like with this ball head. This ball head is exceptional and I love it. It's even got a panorama function on top. When you lock it off level, you can use this side to loosen the screws, so you can do that. With this, you have this weird thing where you go this way to lock it and tighten it with this one, and then this one goes the other way, and that opens up your base plate. And then you've got this weird thing that, and your camera's in it, and you pull that off, your camera can actually flick out. It feels quite like, oh, what's going to happen to my camera? And then all of a sudden you're like, hang on, how do I, oh, that's right, I need to change this. Like, you can put a brake on it by not unscrewing it all the way if you want a gentle thing. But here's the interesting thing. It has these supports here that challenge, so you might have it good that way, but when you go this way, it doesn't work. And I've had all sorts of challenges and complications when you're like, yep, I just want to go into that. I can't do it. What do I need to do? And so you're then trying to work out how the camera works. Instead, it would be great if these didn't exist, really. Take these out. If it didn't exist, you'd then be able to go right down and right the way around, and you could build in smaller supports here to complement the ball that it sits on. It was really groundbreaking. What is clearly obvious is Ulanzi and Coman have said, how can we take this tripod and make it better and workable, and then they've made it cheaper. And people have said, what about these clips are going to break and they're too plasticky. They're the same as these. Like it's metal. It's metal. It's like both made in China. People have a big problem with China at the moment. I don't love the Chinese. Go you guys. So Ulanzi and Coman, taller, cheaper, at the moment, as well made. And that's the challenge, isn't it? For those of you thinking about this or getting upset because you're loyal to this, you're actually saying, but what will it be like in a year's time or 5 years time? Because Peak Design, you can take this back anytime if there's a problem with the tripod, and they say they will repair it and fix it for you. So which one's for you? There's an aluminium version of this that still costs more than this and weighs much more. We should also talk about the cases that come with it. They're both made of what feels like similar material. The Peak Design is more padded, absolutely more padded, offering more protection when you're traveling. Clever. It's smaller. It has these rubber handles that you can use as opposed to the nylon handles on the Ulanzi, which I feel works better on the Ulanzi because nylon is far less likely to tear than this rubber will tear. Both have these rings on either end that mean you can attach it to your neck via a strap so that it hangs from you. Very helpful. I didn't get a strap with my Peak Design. What Peak Design did give me is a little pocket in here that has your Allen keys and a couple of other tools that are helpful for maintenance on your Peak Design. But having done maintenance on all sorts of other tripods over the years, I would have no problem using the center hook key in here to do the maintenance on this should it need be. And you can actually pull the legs apart, you can tighten the legs and move the brackets around, whereas on the Peak Design they're stationary and you can't move them, which is just as well because the legs aren't round, so you can't exactly swivel around a clip like that, can you? I've got a full written review on the comparison between these and the intricacies and details of these two tripods. There's a link in the description below. I'd encourage you to pop over there and have a look at it. You'll see some photos and you'll really see them put side by side through their paces and which one might come out on top. Another key difference is the 0Y goes, so it opens to here, and then you can increase it to halfway and you can go all the way up to right here, which means you can sit your camera really quite low to the ground, especially when you take this section of the center column off and you only have to extend it so far. That's in comparison with the Peak Design that opens to here and then has another option which opens to here. You can achieve the same result with taking the center column out and the camera sits a little bit lower. So I hope this insight has been a little bit fresher and different than some of the other ones out there because I really wanted to test these out. I actually wanted to find some weaknesses in Ulanzi and Coman's because I'm sure they're there. The design of the Peak Design is more classy. They've obviously been able to put more into the engineering of it. It's clearly visible because it looks like something from outer space. It's amazing, and that's why you want to own it. Whereas Ulanzi have gone with a more traditional idea of a tripod and they've pulled it off. And I end up going, I enjoy carrying this around because it's actually, well, look at this. The 0Y is easier to hold in my hand. It just feels like I can grab it more easily than this, although I do like the feel of this. Also, the legs clasps on this are far looser than they are on the 0Y. They're much tighter here. And both tripods take about the same amount of time to set up and to pack down because they're both 5-section tripods and they both got the clips. So there you go. Which one is for you? I think you already know, but put it in the comments below. Let's have a chat. I'm sure some of you will violently disagree with some of the things I've shared in this video, so I look forward to conversing with you about those exciting things. Thanks for subscribing. If you would like to do that now, that'd be amazing. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. And it makes it a bit tricky, and this even neighbours. They never come outside. I film a video outside, both lots outside.